link will probably have just been posted on that.
Oh, really?
Can you open it? I think it's that link.
Wait, this?
Yeah,
Right,
that link lets you watch it live. I'm an admin in the Facebook account.
Can you send the link? Because she has to Facebook.
Tell them to go on Facebook. Got to go on Facebook.
Go on Facebook.
I'll be on there.
Okay. Can you just maybe email her the link? It's ninakraviz@gmail.com.
Such a desperation. We're going to have to hold this for an hour.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Wait, Ollie, what's the email?
Nina Kraviz@gmail.com.
Can you log on that, Giro? Or Christchurch guest or whatever? Okay.
Someone just said,
Did you have it, Giro?
God, there are comments out there.
She wants to send it to her parents. That's fast. That's more.
You can just email it to her.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Could be.
We'll be live in a couple of minutes. Where's the link?
Email it. Like click command
Is
P.
it on connected?
Yeah, she is. Indie.
Are you filming it on there?
This is live streaming. That's filming.
Cool.
I think this is live streaming. I hope so.
So impressive.
Do you want to take it off being live until we start? Do you want to take it off being live until we start?
Then we'll need a new link.
Okay, that's fine.
Like 4 people are watching. 4 people are watching. Say hi to hi.
Hello.
Why does she need Wi-Fi?
No, it's live streaming.
Right, guys, thank you so much for coming this evening in so many numbers. We are delighted to welcome you to Christchurch. Thank you very much for coming. She's flown over especially from Berlin. So please give her a big round of applause. I'll pass you over to Nina, who will introduce herself. I'm sure you all know exactly who she is. But thank you very much.
Just in terms of the format today, we'll just have me introduce myself very briefly, asking a couple of questions and open up for you guys to really to ask any questions you want. So try and think of some good ones while we're talking.
Well, hello. I'm really honored to be one of the best universities in the world, and of course I'm really thrilled about our little talk today, and it really reminds me of my own student life when I was studying dentistry in the best university in Russia for that. And I spent like almost, I don't know, 6 or something years studying this subject, and I'm a certified dentist myself, so I'm really aware of what it is to wake up every morning and have this very brief breakfast and go to the lecture. And at the same time, you're really super young, you want to go out and meet your friends, and maybe you have some kind of job or hobby. You have to combine this all in one, and basically, when you work with people, and especially in the hospital where I worked after I graduated and started my post degree, it's really kind of not bad to be concentrated enough and at least have enough power to help other people. And sometimes I was just so tired and without any sleep from my journalist work that I did at the same time, and from my starting kind of musical career that I did at the same time. But sometimes I would just arrive at my work absolutely like without any energy. So at some point I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision what I wanted to do and where I feel more comfortable, and I had to stop double life. I had to be very honest and tell to my colleagues at work, yes, I am actually a teacher and I am doing this work, and I spend some time at night, not at home, and not studying my previous achievements of the day with patient. Not going through the medical cards, but I actually go to the court and spin records. So, and I was also pretty in an awkward situation with my colleagues on journalist work and from video work, because they also not really aware of what I was doing in my normal everyday life. And that I would have to wake up at 7, it's like, I don't even need a alarm clock. I know that at 7 I have to go catch my bus, taxi. If I'm too late, I'm always late, so yes, taxi. And go to work, and yeah, and then at 7 I'm finished, and that's like a routine that was for almost, I don't know, 8, 9 years or something like that, since a very early age. So then at some point the alarm clock rang one time, and I just looked at it, and I don't know, it was just this moment of clarity, and I realized that I'm not going to work anymore. I'm not coming back. And I never did. I just didn't come back at all. And I left all my papers, documents, and you know, I don't know how about UK or the rest of the world, but in Russia you have this really solid paperwork to feel where you worked, where you studied, and then if you change your working place, you need to take the book with you and present it to your next employer. And I just left it. It was really, really strange moment that I was like a epiphany. No more dentistry. And yeah, it was like this. And I was born in Siberia, in Irkutsk, city of Irkutsk, which is pretty big, I think, city. It's like 700,000 people. I would say it's a very unique place on the map, because the city is located in between 2 tectonic plates, massive European tectonic plate and Eurasian, if I'm not mistaken. And somehow we are very famous for having the deepest lake in the world, which is called Baikal, and it happens to be probably one of the most powerful places I have ever been, and where I spent all my childhood. Every summer I'd go with my parents to spend some time at the lake, and it's huge, it's like a sea, and the microclimate and the whole atmosphere, whole vibe around it is just really, really authentic, you know, something that you cannot miss with anything else. I was pretty much a normal child, I guess, and I started actually my first year of university in the second one I moved over to Moscow. Like a normal student, I was thinking what I want to do, and my parents, they noticed that I was always very extroverted, and if some friends of mine or people around me were feeling not that well or they needed some help, I was always the first to come and ask what's up and try to be helpful and to find a way how to, you know, to make situations better. So somehow my family decided, and we were thinking what to do, because my mom is a teacher of English in high school, and my father is an engineer. And so basically after one big discussion, we kind of all agreed that medical field is really interesting, and I think I should really go and try myself in there. So I made a decision and I went to study. But at some point, I mean, somehow I always had this parallel world around me, always, since I was in school even. And I had my own room and I transformed it into some certain different world where I could be by my own, and then I can just imagine everything I want. And I was really, really into listening to the radio. One of the central point of my room was this really massive, solid wooden table. And on the top of the table, there was like a little spaceship that was blinking at night. Well, it was just a radio receiver and some tape recorder. But I was really excited every night to wait until everyone goes to sleep. And then now I'm like a queen of my kingdom, ruining everything at night, because you have to be really quiet and careful so no one realizes that you're actually awake and you're not sleeping. So in one of these days, I was tuning into some radio station, and then I heard something absolutely incredible. And even though I'm coming from a very musical family, my mom and my dad are great music fans, and my father is probably one of the most educated musically person and with amazing taste. And since I was a little girl, we spent a lot of time together listening to a lot of different music, like from jazz, pop, classic, everything, rock music. And so half of our house was like storage for cassettes and records. And but I never listened to anything, and I never heard anything like I heard that night. It was something really new, super fresh, and it was just grabbed my attention. And until this present moment, I'm still totally in it since the day one. It was actually acid house, but I didn't know that. It was Armando's track, which was like, you know, pushing the atmosphere. It's like so hard. It was so magnetic. So it was 3 or something o'clock in the morning, because the radio that I pirate way kind of tuned into was this radio show, 2 hours radio show on actually pretty mainstream big radio station in Russia that was streaming also in all cities. And you know, Russia is a really big country and we have 11 time zones. So imagine when you have a radio program on Moscow radio, which starts at 10 p.m. It's like 3 a.m. in my home city. And for me, it was a total night, like a totally night experience, and it was amazing. So I would record every show, and it was kind of this pre-internet era, so internet was only in the beginning of its expansion. So in a couple of months, I was basically with this pile of papers, printed biographies from all Chicago, Detroit DJs, from all electro pioneers. So I was really into it, and that's how I got in this world. I entered it just by a radio station. And then the next step for me, because I was so interested, and I was actually quite, even that time, already a little bit informed and educated, because I was just literally was checking everything which was available. So the next thing I did, I got myself a job in a local magazine that was writing about electronic music. And at the same time, simultaneously, I got myself also a little radio show, which I called Positron, which I had a lot to do with atoms, you know, and that kind of thing. It was very interesting. And yeah, and the show was honestly not the best show. I don't know why, but it was pretty amateur, and I still have recordings. When I listen to it, I understand that it was pretty fun. But I was basically doing all these things together, and that was about the time when I actually also started studying medicine. And then I moved to Moscow, and my adult life started. it wasn't an easy one because I had to. It was pretty expensive studies, and I had to work a lot to be able to survive in Moscow because Moscow is a really expensive city. So I did a lot of jobs, like as many as you can imagine, like from waitress. Then I was doing some acting, then part-time doing some commercials, you know, people who are filmed and paid after to promote something. And then I was doing also, I went and I got also a job. I was hired by one of the best magazines, musical magazines in Russia, which I was focusing on music, which is called Future. And it's like, now it's not anymore existing, but at that time it was like really legendary institution for electronic music in Russia. And I was in all those interviews, and at the same time I got myself a job in a promotional agency where I was hosting artists, and I got to know really like some people that I would just dream to meet. Like, I was only reading about them, listening to their music, and I was just working with them, like Grace Jones, legendary Pink Dots, like really broad spectrum of artists. And then Juan Atkins, Robert Hood, all my kind of heroes, I had to take care of them. And then some jazz also, some experimental music for Genesis P. Orridge, from Strawberry Crystal. I don't know if it rings any bell in the young crowd here, but this is like really special people for me in musically, because they all represent something really special that I really, really care for. So I was so happy, I was glad, but the only problem in my life was just this lack of sleep. That isn't resolved till this moment. It's just ongoing. I think I'm just not destined to have any sleep in my life. What is this American style? I think there's like a proverb in America that you will sleep in a old house or old people's house or something like this. Yeah, probably this is exactly my case. So yeah, and at the same time I was studying, doing all these things together, and it was a bit tough at times, I have to say. Sometimes, you know, you probably know that sometimes it's not so easy to get enough money, and you know, especially when you're young, and especially when you're only starting some things, and it was not easy. But I think it's been pretty an amazing journey, and I think this passion that I got in my home city just by listening to the radio was so strong that I don't think it will ever actually fade. I don't feel like it's fading. I've been re-inspiring myself constantly. And with every chapter of my life, it gets some, you know, something new, some new angle, some new feeling around it. And it's absolutely brilliant, I think. So I wouldn't change anything, and I don't regret anything since the day one. I think it was a really right decision, and I'm also really happy that I had this fundamental education, because it gave me so much strength and discipline at first place. You know, when you go to the university and you really dedicate yourself to studying something for a long time, like for a few years, it really changes your character and shapes your, I think, personality even a little bit. It gives you this strength in the core. I mean, I wouldn't say that education definitely gives you the core. I think you should at first place actually have it. But it definitely strengthens it, and puts a lot of great opportunities to the individual who is. So what I'm trying to say is, like, I think we're really happy. We should be really glad that we had education, and not everyone in the world has this amazing opportunity. And I think I'm really grateful that I had it. I enjoyed every time, every year of my studies, and I hope you too enjoy it. And even though you know, it's really so different what I was studying, but I think somehow it helped me so much, and it's definitely linked to my life till this present moment. And yeah, definitely. What I don't know if you now it's a little bit more clear who I am, but I mean the next thing that I would want to say that at some point I became also a singer in the band, and then I was really lucky because while I was studying still dentistry, I applied for Red Bull Music Academy to be a participant. It's like some kind of a 2 weeks seminar that is every year held in some place in the world. In my case, that was Melbourne. And I won it. They selected me, so I went there. And I think since that day, my life has changed like 360 degrees. Because that was the moment when I realized that that's it. I mean, that's what I'm doing. Like somewhere deep inside. Because I was surrounded by amazing crew of people, and I learned how to, like the basic things about producing music, actually, electronic music program. I got my 2 months trial Ableton that I brought my to Moscow, and then I asked somebody to make it not a trial. So I kind of used my ways to keep it for myself a bit longer. And at the same time, I was singing in a band and also creating music, composing. And then we kind of didn't really see anymore in the same direction with the rest of my band. We were touring already like for 1 year, and I still was studying and working at the university. It was really weird, but all totally different. How do you say double jobs? I really double job. Yeah. And no one really realized what was happening in between. And yes, but somehow we didn't really at some point share the same ideas, and then the record that I was participating in recording was signed by Greg Wilson, in UK producer and DJ, and that gave me a lot of power, dream power, you know. I was, yeah, it's like my record just got signed, and wow, why don't we just do it with the rest of our music? So I went to the guys and I said, guys, we're really lucky people because now we got an offer to release an album. But they were all in their own world already. They met this other girl and they wanted to do punk rock now. And I was really not into punk rock. And I said, give the music to me, I will just go to the studio and mix it myself. And they were really unhappy about it. They was thinking, no, you can't do it because you're just a singer, you're just DJing in a Kraviz, go spin your records and leave the job for me to man to do, you know, to finish. And I was like, wait a minute, but this is our music, we did it together. And they were totally not sharing my opinions. So in the end, I left all the music with them. I got really, really angry. Like, I think I was never more angry than that time of my life. And I basically started making music myself. I bought really cheap equipment, the cheapest sound card, audio, and then I got this basic synthesizer by Korg, R3 with a accordion on it. And I also got myself a microphone because that was my main weapon. That was the thing that I could do. The only probably instrument that I could actually play was my voice, because I couldn't play any instruments rather than just doing a few chords on keyboards and just following my inner ear. And at some point, I realized that I'm actually making music myself, and I don't need anybody for it. I didn't need anybody from my band, and that was a really exciting time, because all I did, I was just spending all my spare time at home, in my room, which, okay, it wasn't my room. It became my room because I just occupied it, and there was no, I was just like a dog with my bone. I just took the room from the place where I stayed at the time. And all I did was smoking a lot and a lot of cigarettes, not sleep at all. And I would work until I basically started to fall on the keyboard. And that was also the time where MySpace was really, really big. So what I did, I just created like a name, Daniela Year, because I was also studying Spanish that time a little bit. And so I was really into Spanish words and sentences, and I'm like, Daniela Year sounds like, wow, interesting. Also some weird, you know, how like Daniela Year, that doesn't make sense, but if you really look at it, it actually does. It's like between now, something like this. So I created an account, and what I would do, I would just make music constantly and upload it on MySpace and see what people say. But does it have a name, you know? It's really exciting. And somehow I got really good feedback, and it would re-inspire me even more and give me even more energy to continue. So I was really hooked in that. And sometimes I would just make like 2-3 tracks a night, you know, just upload it. Sometimes not even finish them completely, but just like, and just sit back. And at some point, I saw this Russian DJ, Anton Zak, who is also one of my colleagues, and he's an excellent DJ, and also a deep house producer. And I knew that he was signed for on an American label called Underground Quality. And I looked at his MySpace, I contacted him, I said, Anton, like, what's up, what's going on? I signed, how it happened? He's like, yeah, you can just contact Jasset and send him some music and see what happens. So I did exactly the same thing, what he told me. I sent the music, and I got a reply 1 year later, or half a year later, I remember. No, I got released 1 year later, but I got a reply half a year later, yes. That was in that moment when I was at the Sonic Festival in Barcelona as a visitor in my hotel room, and I opened up my email, and I see the email from Jasset saying, girl. And you know, he's very expressive, amazing guy. He has a lot of charisma, and when he talks, it's just like, never stop. But somehow this energy and this vibe transcends in his emails as well. So when I open it, I realized that I'm actually talking to someone really special. So he was all around my track, which was called Voices. This is such an amazing work. I have to, like, so expressive. Wow, you sing so well. And I don't think I was such an amazing singer, but it was definitely a very honest track or song, I would say. One of my first songs that I ever made. And he got hooked. I mean, he was interested, and it was so special. So from the day that I started producing music till the day that I actually got my first record out, like solo record, so without anybody, co-production or whatever. It's been less than 1 year, which was pretty impressive. And by the way, coming back to that time, which I think still remains one of the most prolific times in my life, musically, where music was just flowing effortlessly, where things would just somehow shape themselves without any effort, without any push. And all my songs' first releases that actually got me into this electronic scene I made exactly that time, in that room, in that smoky room. And all the works were very different, were all influenced by different musicians somehow, different experiences in different genres. And at some point I invited Jacet to play at my party that I was also hosting. I was also hosting a party on top of everything. And in one of the best clubs in Russia, Propaganda, for 2 years. And I got fired, I think, after 2 years. And it was again another drama, and I couldn't imagine how I was fired from my own night. And the night was really successful, but it was probably a bit too underground, and because I was really special artists, and even though in my opinion it was really successful, I really don't know why it happened. But again, this drama pushed me somewhere else. I'm really happy I got fired, because if I wasn't fired on time, maybe I would continue focusing and giving all my energy to this partying, to my life in Moscow. But since I got fired, I get a bit upset and angry, and I was, what's going on? Like, how can you treat me like this? And I totally focused all my energy and dedicated all my energy to music production and on my traveling schedule. You know, I was so keen to go out and to travel around the world and to become an international DJ, and that actually reached exactly what happened in the next years of my own career or work or whatever. Yes, and at the same time, I forgot to tell you that when I was in Australia, I met Matt Edwards, also from UK, a producer who probably you might know as Radio Slave. And I gave him also the link to MySpace, and he told me that he really likes my music. And then I invited him to play at my party. And before he noticed, he already had 2 CDs with my music in his hands. And that's how I also got signed to Records. And he still keeps his 2 CDs, I think. To like a main first province of mine. And then I released an album. Then I started traveling more and more, and now here I am. Now I have my own label. I just started my label. I have my own family growing around me with young artists that are releasing on it, and I'm also doing now the work of proper air. Like, I'm signing music, looking for musicians, and being in contact with them personally. It's really interesting, and also combining the art a little bit with music with my label, because I'm working with a very young artist from Portugal. He's only 20. And he does absolutely incredible artwork for every record, vinyl record. Yeah, so I'm really happy, and I think I really enjoy the place that I am in my life. And yeah, let's see what happens next. Yes, I don't know what else I can tell about myself. I have limitless information. I can tell you so much. Tell you, I have lots of different stories, and they all will be pretty funny. I just don't know which angles.
How about you tell us the most exciting story in your career so far? If you could pick one.
The most exciting story.
In your career so far.
There were actually many.
If there's
really
one
difficult.
standout moment you can choose, or
It's really difficult to. Well, I just find it. I mean, I'm all about finding stories and coincidences, and I think I'm about things that are absolutely not combinable, but somehow they are all leading equally in me. Like, it's like to see somebody very subtle and then playing really hard music, which is me, yeah, or the same way, like being a a doctor and then doing something completely different. I always liked this edge, you know, that to do something completely different. And I think that's where I was digging for my inspiration somehow, because I was always escaping some worlds. They were never really satisfying for me if it's only this world. I will always trying to run to some other pole. Is it something that you say? A pole? No? Pole? Yeah, okay. So, you know, English is not my mother tongue language. Just recently, a really funny story. You know, I started to believe in a lot of things that I haven't really believed before. I think if you nourish your brain accordingly and give yourself a little bit of space and truly believe that actually there are a lot of different possibilities around you and can visualize and even put some soundtrack on it. Sometimes it works exactly how you kind of imagined. For example, when I really remember when I was only learning how to mix my records, a really long time ago, like prehistorical times. And I remember that I actually imagined, I had a picture of what I was doing. I was dreaming that I would be one day standing in front of a lot of many people, like a crowd. I would be playing my records, and I would be playing not really records, but I would just use the records to express myself and to communicate my understanding about this world to the outside, to people. And funny enough, now thinking about it, I actually realized that it is exactly what I was imagining. And I didn't plan it at all. I didn't know that my life would be like it is now. I was only keeping it on the back of my mind in form of a very subtle dream. A subtle wish, you know. Yeah, would be not, yeah, would be good. Could be, would be, might be, maybe. Never really, I must go and become something, whatever that is. And on an everyday basis, you don't really notice these things. Like you don't really think how important it is in life to sometimes just give a little space, you know, just to relax your mind a little bit and to dream. Just really dreaming about things, just for your own pleasure, not for, not to particularly achieve something, but definitely just to enjoy. To dream something and just for the sake of the pure enjoyment of it. That's what I did maybe 3 weeks ago. I was thinking I really would like to actually be photographed by one of my favorite photographers, music photographers. Anton Corbijn, amazing videographer, really respected and pretty much legendary photographer. I always dreamt to do something with him, or just meet him, a person just to talk. And so when I was thinking about having actually a picture from some kind of photographer, I was thinking about Newton, Bangkok, somebody else. But somehow, my first choice was always Anton Corbijn, and I was thinking, that would be so cool. And then, such a strange thing, I'm at home in my Berlin apartment, and then the door rings, and there's a postman. Here is, es gibt eine Packung, aber nicht für ihn. not for you. This package is not for you. This is for your neighbor. I'm taking the package, signing for him, and putting the box on the ground, and then I just look at the name that is written on the box. It's called Anton Korban. And I was like, interesting. It looks exactly like somebody that I kind of know from photographs. And I forgot about it. I thought it's just some how many Anton Korbans in the world, it's really, really weird. Why would you receive a package for him? And then 2 weeks later, another time, somebody rings in the door, I open it and I see a tall man in his 60s, speaking rather for Flemish accent to me and saying, I just thought that I need to pick up a package. I have a name. No, please. Are you a photographer? Yeah, photographer. I'm like, whoa. Like package. You really came here to get yourself a package. And he's like, yeah, package. And I was package. Do you have an email? I really have to write you an email. I really need to. So he basically lives in my house. He lives in my house and 2 floors up, and he's my neighbor. And I never knew about it. And it was really fun. So I wrote him an email, and he never got back to me. Because it was a time when actually I don't know why he didn't get back. Maybe my letter was a bit too expressive, too exciting, overexciting. Because when I meet people that are excited, for example, about something particularly, like about artist or musician or photographer or Coca-Cola, I don't know. It looks really funny, and when you look at it from a distance, you think, whoa, okay. When you are actually in the same position, you don't think how you look like or what you write in this moment of excitement. Now I read this back again, the same letter, and I was thinking, like I would never answer something like this. It was really exciting message from somebody who said basically lost his mind over this occasion. But I got him anyway. I went to the exhibition next last week. He had the exhibition with his retrospective, and I said, hey, I'm here. Oh yeah, it's you. Okay, and then I said, it's unlikely that I get a picture from you because you're such a busy photographer and you're a legend and you're working with, Rolling Stones and Depeche Mode and really important musicians, legends. It's unlikely that I get a picture from you. So I have an idea. Why don't you just take this phone and take a picture of me and my friend, and I'll have this picture taken by Anton Korban. And yeah, so he did it. The picture is pretty normal, but yeah, so this is like the last occasion. But a lot of it's coincidences, like really a lot of them. Actually, if I say correctly, many coincidences, a lot of coincidences. So this is, I think, my life is just a brilliant sequence of absolutely interesting coincidences. Oh, I see a student who really has not enough sleep like me. I feel you, I really feel you. I also have the same. I just wanted to support you a little bit.
Before we move to some questions from the crowd, you've met your favourite photographer. Is there any particular musician that you'd love to meet?
Yes, I think there are definitely a big list of musicians that I would like to meet. Unfortunately, some of them are not alive anymore. I would really, really love to meet Thelonious Monk. I was always really, I don't know, intrigued by his persona. I would probably like to meet Tchaikovsky, definitely, because I absolutely adore his music. And but you know, I have to tell you something. I wish I didn't meet some legends. Seriously. I mean, it might sound pretty strange, and sometimes it's nicer to keep this myth around a person. And I was blessed enough to meet really legendary people. And without dropping any names, and just by interacting with them, I'm thinking sometimes I really would like to come back to that point where I made the decision to meet you personally. It's just not, sometimes just what you imagine about someone doesn't really coherent well with what it really is, or at least at the moment, at the time that you meet an actual person, it's probably already a different one. He's on a different stage of his life, and he's not really used to you know, him. Used to know him before. So I think I basically have met probably all musicians I wanted somehow, because to me, the fact that I can connect to their music and to this basically very intimate experience somehow, I think this is one of these unique situations, unique points about being a musician or anything from the creative field, that you can establish the intimate experience with a listener or with somebody, with a viewer, or visitor, or whatever, without actually encountering the person in real life. And sometimes all you need is your imagination, and sometimes just to feel the music and the whole world that an artist put inside is pretty much enough. And sometimes it's just really enough. Yeah.
Sure, thank you so much. Are there questions from the crowd?
I was just wondering, Levin Vincent recently made some comments about some stage of techno at the moment. He said that the scene as a whole had lost its cultural mixing pot, and that music has gone quite stale. And a lot of other people have said also that that perhaps techno at the moment is too Eurocentric and trance influenced, and maybe there should be a Detroit revival. How do you feel about these comments, and what do you think about a Detroit revival as well?
Okay, thank you for the question, Bio. It's a really good question, and I've been thinking about this, of course. I see a lot of things, and I experience them myself, and I have this really shortcut to the crowds, and I can probably tell you really a lot of things now, but let's look at this question from a different angle. Music and any culture or subculture, which electronic music kind of is, or the so-called underground subculture, has been constantly experiencing a change. Basically everything in the world, in the existence, core of existence is a constant change. What I picked up from my medical background is that everything that stays at the same place and doesn't move and doesn't go hand in hand with time is subject to death. So, no matter how people perceive things and what they think about it, I think there will always be left and right. There will always be people who will be constantly arguing about something, not happy about something, and then at the same time there will be something which is flourishing, like bright, you know, and shining and totally full of energy. And you can always look at the same thing from at least two angles. Everything is polar in the world, and equal opinion is also subject, in my opinion. And, you know, since the very ancient times, even like Cicero was telling like, oh, temporal mores, like what, I think, so Latin expression, like, oh, the times or the generation. Plato also was really unhappy about his generation. He was like, oh my God, what is these people? You know, they will, and always the same thing. Every generation, there is always people who say, this is the worst generation ever. The world comes to an end. Young people have no clue. Terrible, 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 terrible. Absolutely no future. Everything comes to an absolute end, unavoidable end. But, of course, I'm not an exception. I am being really critical about a lot of things, trust me, and I'm not even critical about them, I really feel it, yeah? It makes me feel bad sometimes, a lot of things in this industry. Because unfortunately it's not, you know, you cannot be only an artist. You cannot allocate yourself and separate yourself from everything else. You know, I don't have a manager. No one ever managed me. Everything I did was done by myself. All the decisions, all the failures, all the mistakes, all the rises was all the result of my own activity. But, and you know this, but even if you have someone, you always have to also deal with a lot of things that have nothing really much to do with creativity and artistical sense. But you also have to do a lot of this other things that are coming along with it, these other experiences. And of course, I'm a little bit sometimes worried about turns that our industry takes, you know, and I'm also a little bit worried about the gaps, educational gaps in between generations. For example, if I'm taking care of my social media as well, so I have a very direct contact to my fan base. I see who these people are. I read sometimes what they write, and I unfortunately cannot check the letters because there's a really big amount of them. But I kind of see what's up, what's going on. And I worry a lot, and I feel responsible also somehow, that younger generation has really big gaps in education. They don't know enough about what was happening before. Sometimes the whole genre is in music, like deep house for example, is being transformed into something that is definitely not it. Like something else, yeah? It's just a different genre of music. But somehow it's been named this way, and no matter how much you want people to understand this, it's a totally useless amount of work, because it ain't gonna happen. And basically, after some moments, and I still have these moments when I desperately want to change something, And I've always been very responsible in front of my crowd because I'm new and I always know that people that are in front of me, they're not only there, in my opinion, to get this entertaining dose of fun, but I also think that my mission is to put as much, subjectively, yeah, good music, because maybe what is good for me, not good for others, but I really believe in what I play has this quality, and I really like sign under every track that I play out. So I feel responsible to what I actually present to people on every show I do. And I always play only music that I really believe, I really feel, and I think they should know about. And I also try to always play a lot of music from the past to create this bridge and to have the to kind of, to have the right follow-up and to educate the new people, because I kind of lost interest in the snobby elderly crowd that already has shaped and formed their own opinions. Yeah, they live long enough, and I think they can take care of themselves. But I really care about young people. Sometimes the things they do are really great, and this makes me feel that I really believe in the youth, and that it's so amazing how different these people are, and that everything they do is just done in a different way because of the time difference and because of the technology. The world is different, and these people are also different, and it's extremely exciting to see this new blood, new generation that is changing the oldies. So you can actually have these fresh people. On the other hand, I feel okay, but people are pretty sterile, unfortunately. Because music, electronic music, the trick about it is not that you cannot go to the university and attend the course of electronic music. Not only no one really paid enough attention to establish something like this, but it's practically not really possible. Why? Because it is not really, rock music. It's rock music. The main people in rock music. Who's the boss there? What's good? What is not good? And in between the genres or sub-genres, there's not too much room to, for surfing. It's okay. You always can find your way to the next rock band, more or less. And you would understand what this genre is all about. You would never mix the, metal with surf rock. You will always know what it is. It's really distinct genres. Electronic music is a nightmare. You have to really to understand it and to really have a knowledge about it. You need to live to it. You really need to just to listen, to have your own phases, to be a little bit an electro from the 80s. Then you probably are into hip hop. Then you then you have an influence from, for example, from house music, and you all live by it. You're really into it. Then you change or maybe add up to, for example, to techno, and you have your own waves and phases, yeah. And with every genre you pick up, you become more and more educated, and that's how you actually get the knowledge in electronic music, but just by listening to the music and living certain eras and periods of it. So imagine if you're a young person and if you don't really have time and much dedication and passion about it, and if you're not really keen to know every genre or whatever, it's very easy to be manipulated, and it's very easy to actually to mix a lot of things and to be sometimes critical about what is actually great and to be a little bit underestimating things or overestimating them just because you don't know things. And you know, I was always thinking about it, you know, when talking about things in differences in between generations. And this is all the part of what's going on in techno music now. So coming back to your very core first question, if I think that something is extremely wrong happening at the moment, no. No, I don't think so. I think it's very natural. You know, global warming, a lot of people have thousands of theories. Global warming is because some greedy people want more money, consumption, consumption. So, you know, that's why we destroy the nature, that's why global warming. The answer is just basically the normal situation for our planet, and it's just a phase of it. And in the long perspective, it's absolutely a normal thing. You know, it's just a transformation. And of course, when I see some bollocks, you know, happening, when I see some incredible amount of not good things, let's call it this way, around. Yeah, I really feel it. I feel really upset. It still gets me to my bones sometimes. People that are talking about something they don't know about, like completely not, but they have a very strong opinion. And strangely enough, as many as like, you know, somehow I've noticed that the people that have least like to say, and like really those that don't have enough knowledge, they would be the one that would talk a lot. It's really interesting. It's a part of life, I guess, unavoidable. That exactly the people who are outspoken are those. I mean, not always, of course, but within the rap, and it's exactly sometimes not really educated enough, unfortunately. But it's all good. I have established my view on it. I think I'm really positive about everything. We can change a lot. I can change a lot. You know, I can always do something myself, and people around me too. And if we believe in something, we become a group, a community, and this is how new communities are being born. And this is in life. This is a normal process. This is how we are as humans, I think. And it's nice to reflect. You know, like Mark Twain many years ago, like he said, like, as soon as you feel, what he said, as soon as you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to stop and reflect. I really like this. Actually, I would really like to meet Mark Twain. That's one of these people that I would really like to encounter in real life. Everybody knows him from novels, but he's so smart. And everything he says is just right on point. So I'm a total Mark Twainist. I think we're gonna go through it, and we're gonna be stronger and even more inspired, and just by doing our things with passion, with love, we are already changing the situation for better, and infiltrating other people with the same vibes around us.
Would you take just a couple more? Back.
So you've spoken a few times about the variety of influences that you have in terms of outside of just techno. So let's say you're in a new city that you've never been to before, and you find a record shop. You walk into the record shop and you have a look around. Where's the first place that you go? Do you go to the jazz section, or do you go to the bargain bin or the like dollar records? where do you go?
Thank you for the question. Again, another brilliant one. Thought-provoking, I must say. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. Even though I do a lot of record shopping, like really a lot of record shopping, like sometimes it's like another part of my life. I spend even way too much time sometimes in these places. Sometimes I can spend like 8 hours record digging in second-hand stores. And my favorite stores is those that have a box full of records. And that's it. Check. And you just go through it. The first thing I do is I look at how a record looks like. I think I have already established a certain knowledge that the record that I'm kind of most likely to buy and to get for myself and gonna buy will be also looking proper way, accordingly to what I like. So actually, these things are really, I think we have covers for the record not only for this kind of artistical aesthetic purposes. We also have it to actually to be able to navigate through the large amount of music somehow, without, actually very smart also, without any advice. You know, without any reviews in some magazine, oh, you should do this, or in any sections that you have in the record store, the cheap, you must have, proper, all this, you know, all this kind of adjectives that people sometimes use to sell something. Unvisible, big room techno. That's my favorite. Yeah. So, but I still, because second-hand record shops, they definitely satisfy my needs in terms of, you know, getting special weapons that no one has, because, you know, when you get to this warehouse type of record stores, you always have boxes that's full of incredible amount of absolutely unknown music. And no matter how, it's really incredible. I'm doing it for years, but at least 20 new labels would occur and appear in one of the sessions. It's unbelievable, like how many records were actually made in the past. It's incredible amount, and I'm still not knowing and still experiencing new, they're just coming more and more. And at least as soon as you jump on one, there's like another at the same time. So, but it still doesn't really satisfy my needs as a record digger and as an artist fully, because it doesn't have new records. So of course, when I go to the new city, I am always trying to visit local record stores. For one reason, not only that it's a good, nice experience, you know, just to go meet somebody who's taking care of the store. Also maybe discuss if he has my record now, because I'm a record label owner, so I take care of the distribution of things. But also because it's just a nice experience, and also electronic music is a unique thing, absolutely unique, because with pop music you have pretty standard distribution system. If a major artist is there with a new album, everyone knows it. And you know how to get it, and most of those will have it. With electronic music, you have distribution wars. Means that every distributor works with a certain amount of stores, and sometimes if you are only releasing your music on vinyl, you will be unfortunately a victim of this wars, because people, if they come to the record store, they are absolutely not necessarily gonna get your, even know about your record, because there are so many, and they're popping up like mushrooms after the rain, and to keep your mind and keep your focus on them, and it's absolutely impossible, even for someone who's checking most of the stores on a weekly basis. But answering your question, of course I must say I have my work to do. So at first, if it's a short-term visit, 1 hour or less than that, I go and of course check working area, like techno, electronic music, everything. But I used to be a front DJ. I forgot to tell you this. I also had 2 years of absolute obsession with funk records, 7 inches, and disco. So I was playing disco and soundtracks to the movies, and I also had my funk party with my boyfriend at that time. It was called Funk Explosion. And sometimes we were really successful actually. We had death flyers and we were exploding on a weekly basis. And I was singing sometimes, and when the urge was too tight, you know, I was just out, go on the mic and express everything I had at that moment. But when I have a bit more time, and when I'm relaxing, which is not so often happening, but when this actually happens, in Berlin, for example, I actually like living in Berlin also for that reason, that you have so many record stores. They're so different, and I cannot just visit one. I have to constantly check them all. I have 5 record stores that I have to visit. And one of the record stores has this section of weird music, all sorts of music, like from world music to like disco. I always check disco, but still, I really like it. I mean, it's obvious disco, but kind of weird disco, no disco, wave, like, you know, I really like this edge, blurred lines between music. I don't like obvious music at all, so I always try to fish in nearby waters, you know, not really go always straight to the point, rather do something unfinished, unrefined enough, and I can then finish it myself in the mix, yeah. So yeah, I do check weird sections, like also exotica, 60s stuff. I was also really into that kind of thing for probably half a year. I was really into this interesting blaxploitation, which is like another subgenre of funk music, very famous in USA in the 70s. You probably know, like, for example, Pulp Fiction, made by Tarantino, was full of this music. And I actually know, I met, because of my work, in that promotional agency, I met a guy who selected all this music for Quentin. His name is Millionaire. He's just all about DJ Millionaire, yeah. Nobody knows about him, but he was the one who really found a lot of jams for Quentin, who has its own great taste, by the way, but he was really well connected with the right people who visit these strange record stores and buying 1-2 euro records that sounding absolutely stunning and has a signature sound. And then in the right hands, it evolves into something. And I do still check this stuff. But I actually, you know what, after you have asked and addressed this question, I feel a bit guilty that I'm not doing it enough. So, I promise that a new person is going to leave this room. So just thanks to you, to your right question. Actually, the phone is ringing. I'm thinking maybe somebody is watching the stream and saying, Nina, stop. Nina, stop. But I like talking with you. I feel very comfortable. Any more? Did I answer your question? Thank you very much. Any more? Please.
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, like, it's super obvious from this room. It's a very male environment, the whole electronic music scene. And I just wanted to ask you, how is it? Is it difficult or is it actually easier for you? Because, you know, you've got all those guys, oh yeah, she's a DJ, that's really cool. Or is it more like you have to fight your way? How does it work?
Thank you for the question. It's not my favorite question, though. But I think I'm actually even more asked this question when I have a chance to think about it, to be honest. like such a popular question.
I was going to ask something else, but then I looked
Yeah, no worries, no problem at all. How is it? Well, I would say it is exactly what it is. Again, no black and white. I really like men. That's the thing, definitely. I'm not a sexist. I really like them, and I'm glad to be surrounded by them. And I have nothing against them, for sure. And I think what's been happening with me, it's just the way it is in this type of business. Sensationalism, box, like putting things and people in a box, creating myths, that has very little to do with truth. It's all, I really would not like to put this all on the shoulders of this very well and used term, how this is hard to be in this business if you're it's really a man-made, like I think it's in general the problem of the society, how it functions or maybe dysfunctions sometimes. And I think it would be pretty reducing to put all and to sum up and to kind of to collect all the problems and to direct them only there. Yeah, that's why. I don't think so. I think it's just really normal things that are happening when, in the show business. Especially with the existing era of internet and with this absolutely unique moment in our history where absolutely everyone can express his opinion. Everyone without being asked for it, obviously. And also everyone is allowed, and everyone has enough trust and belief in themselves to come up with a conclusion and statement. And I think we are living in a time of really exaggerated self-esteem. That everyone really is believing that world needs his opinion on everything. Even in the areas that you have no knowledge about. But since it's clear that it can do it, why not? So it creates a lot of, it's a really, really systematic thing. And as much as I don't like to be labeled and put in some certain marketing model, which I really, since I'm a teenager, was never really belonging to any group. It's impossible with my character. I told you I'm a Mark Twainist. As soon as I can find a group, majority, running away. So it's a systematic thing. A lot of things involved. It's way more difficult to explain than to put it in this box that you kind of, I guess, expected me to talk about.
No, not really. I was just curious if it's because I always go from that. Is it more difficult or is it actually doesn't have benefits? But it probably has both depending on the situation.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. I think it has benefits and it has really unpleasant things that you have to. For example, you know, why do I, like, any boy could just come up with a record and no one would ever question if he did it himself. Never. But unfortunately, in our times, it's like, good record. Suspicious. Really? Like, why? I didn't never understood why it was suspicious. And then, like, okay, this is how it is. And again, you know, there are so many roundabouts. Like, you can always talk about and try to fight the life, but you know, the life will always fight you in any case. It's better to just do your little things, to really concentrate and believe in what you think. And of course, it's not easy sometimes. But who told you that life is going to be easy? You know, life is the boss, and there are rules that society has, and of course you can fight them, and I do, but on a slightly peaceful way, and I do it differently. I'm just doing it by focusing on something that I believe in, and just trying to direct all my attention to that. And I think this is my answer to that, to the unpleasant side. And of course, I'm extremely thankful, and I'm embracing the whole positive aspect of it, which is of course there. And again, I have to thank the amazing man for that. So you can blame them and hate them and love them at the same time. It's like all my life is this contradiction, black and white. And there was never really black and white. Never really liked colors that are just red, blue, black, yellow. I liked something in between, a mixture.
Very well. I think that's all we've got time for to questions right now. But I hope you'll all join me in thanking Nina for what was a truly inspiring insight into her own story, industry, and her life. And thank you very much for your time and for coming here this evening and sharing your messages with us. Thank you very much.